Hi, the topic today is how to be highly effective, and I'm focusing on businesses. For me, I define business as a community. You see, nobody can enslave you. Nobody can enslave a person who knows his mind. Nobody can enslave you if you know your mind. So businesses are very, very important. I've never seen anything as important as business. Business is as important as work, and it is through business or work we define ourselves. So that's why it is a command. So it is a command of God that man must work, and that work is translated into business. Your capability, to initiate your own business is very, very important, because that is what brings the community together, and that is what is community. If the community doesn't have businesses, that community doesn't exist. So business and community, they go hand in a glove. So if there is no business, there is no community. And if there is no community, there is no business. So you have to ask yourself, do our community have business? Do we have business? If we have business, that is, we have community. But if we don't have business, we don't have community. And business is so important that it makes you great. It fulfills your heart desires and goals. It makes you to develop. It makes you to innovate, and it makes you to evolve. We would have been in the Stone Age today, using hand to grind stone if business didn't come up. If it's not because of businesses. In fact, we would be sleeping in a cave today if not because of businesses. So business is very, very important in a community. Business is very, very important among people. Because you cannot use your faculty or your mind fully if you don't engage in business. So if you don't engage in a business, you will not have a special experience. Because this life is full of experience. And the only way to get a proper experience is when you get involved. When you engage in a business, you integrate. So if you don't engage in business, you have a shallow experience. And that shallow experience wouldn't allow you to develop, wouldn't allow you to grow, wouldn't allow you to evolve. It might seem as if you are growing. By the time you look at your left hand, you haven't seen any growth. So that is why it says that there is no money in Africa. Because Africans have not imbibed the idea of business the way we imbibe religion. I'm not against religious people. But what I'm saying is that we can apply the same charisma, the same commitment, the same, devotion we carry in our religious books and other things and bring it into business. Because business is not against God. It is God that instituted business. It is God that instituted work. When I was growing, they said to pray is to work. So why is it that when I've grown, it becomes a different thing? So business is critical. So if you want to know a community, look at their businesses. You see, if we don't see business, in a way that projects your belief and value, then you are grossly mistaken. You may have as much value, as much belief you have. If you can put it together and form a business, it does not move the world. It does not change anything. It doesn't change the person. When I listen to somebody, I'm able to understand if the person has changed. Because once you change, it's very clear. You know, once you change, my people used to say, all abanaka anaheji enyele. So once somebody changes, you will see it. Just like a pregnant woman. Once a woman conceives, the body starts changing. So once you change, once you understand what is being taught, you will change automatically. You don't need somebody to come and wake you up in the morning. You don't need somebody to come and preach to you. Because you are the change yourself. You've already changed. So that is why today people are talking to fellow Africans to engage in a business. Because they don't understand that the business is community. They don't understand that business is life. If you're not in business, you're not alive. Because what is it about life without experience, without a feeling? So business is very, very important. People don't develop, people don't get organized if there is no value, if there is no belief. And the only way to show that belief is by building a structure, by building, ideas, enterprises, and empires. Because that is the way you can spread out, and then people's uniqueness could be widened. So if people have gifts, where are they going to use it for? Which field area are they going to use it? So when we're talking about businesses, it includes working. Because you have to work for somebody. You have to work for a business. You have to work for a company. But the question is, the place you're working, are you driving? Are you fulfilling your potentials? Is it giving you that identity? Is it giving you that uniqueness? But if it's not giving you that uniqueness, that means you have to have a U-turn. You have to reconsider yourself. You have to have a rethink. Because you are expected to express this your uniqueness. You will never know how amazing you could be unless you get into business, unless you get into work, unless you become yourself. That is why the first thing somebody does is to define himself, identify himself. So without these things, you will not develop a core value. And if you don't develop a core value, there will be nothing like belief. And if there is nothing like belief, you can't have a business. And if you can't have a business, there is no community. I am sounding loud and clear. If there is no business, there is no life. Because the life God gave you expands, it develops, it grows. So if you have a baby and the baby never grew up, that means the baby never existed. In fact, today, my son inspired me. He crashed out from a small table and started to cry, and I came up to his assistance. I lifted him up and, stayed with him for a while. Immediately, he recovered. He stopped crying. He jumped out of my, hand and, climbed onto the table again and started doing the same thing he was doing. This kind of movement and action struck a chord in me. It told me, look, that means we are created to be resilient. We are created to be effective. We are created to expand. We are created to continue to do things that is in our mind without fear. That means by nature, we are not created to be afraid. My son wasn't afraid. He crashed and cried and went back. So he wasn't deterred by fear. He wasn't deterred by the pain. So that means it is probably the society that made us to look passive, that made us to be, docile. and that made us, to be, timid. With this short experience, with this short illustration, I was able to deduce that timidity and passivity is what the society sold to you. And you swallow it, and then you become critical of people who want to, explore and develop themselves. And that is why we see there is no growth. That is why there is no innovation. You see, the brand God gave you is as powerful as his own. Let me tell you. God is never a liar. He says, you are my son. Imagine your own son. Think of what he can do. So if God calls us his own people, that means he has given us a lot. But because we don't explore, we don't innovate, we don't take risks, we don't see the result. So this brings me to the place of risk taking. It brings me to the point of risk taking. Business is about risk taking. But people, have different, adverse to risks. People have the tendency or the control, the risks they could control. Not everybody takes the same risks. Some people are adverse to risks to a level, but some people could take as much as their mind and their power allows them. But then, risk is very, very important. Without risk, you cannot get this exhilaration. You can't get this kind of enthusiasm and excitement and joy that comes with something being accomplished. You see, Steve Jobs said it's the people who think they are crazy are the ones that bring change. So without taking risks, you cannot get yourself into this position. You can pray as much as you like. You can study as much as you like. But if you don't take risks, there will be no way you can expand. You will never grow. You won't evolve. So that is why it is essential and critical for people to take risks, even if it's a calculated risk. If you can't take a risk, make sure you take a calculated risk. A calculated risk is one that, you've weighed. The one that, that has a buffer, like a safety net, that even if when you drop, you wouldn't drop right on the ground. So why are we not taking the calculated risk, which is the least part of risk a man has to take? That is why we are making wars. That's why we're spending our time being religious. That's why we're spending our time crying for people to accept us. That is why we spend all our time looking for equality, looking to be accepted. In the world you're supposed to be a leader. Is it not a shameful thing? In a world that you are supposed to lead and guide, now becomes where you are asking for acceptance. It's a place where you're always begging for food to eat, begging and crying. You are a leader. You are meant to direct the world. But because you don't want to integrate, because you don't want to influence things, you don't want to change things, you ended up as being the hunted one. But the step forward is for us to, go back to our original position. Our original position is that of creativity, is that of innovation, is that of, using your imagination. Imagine it, whatever you imagine exists. So when I see people, they fold their hand, it makes me feel, don't these people know that God exists? Don't these people are aware of God? And do they not know that they were created by God and made in his own image? So it comes back to, having the initiative to work, to initiate things. Even though something seems, risk-taking or whatever thing has a problem, you see, it is not supposed to deter us, it's not supposed to stop us. A human being is unstoppable. Look at my son today. I couldn't stop him. The fear of crashing couldn't stop him. The pain from crying couldn't stop him. Then what is stopping you? If a boy of 1 year and 6 months couldn't stop when he faced a problem, why would you be crying to the world when you face a problem? Is it not ignorance? When Moses was ignorant, what did God tell him? God said, what is it in your hand? What is it in your hand? What is it that you can do? Like this video I'm doing today, I have millions of excuses where I can't do it. I have millions of excuses why I shouldn't do it. I have millions of fears why I shouldn't do it. But I have to look at the real ones and handle it. And then the ones that I call excuses, I eliminate it because they don't exist. Of course, you have to have this kind of fear. The fear God left in us was to inspire us, was to make us great. But if you don't understand this, then the fear becomes there to sabotage you. We are being sabotaged by consistent, thinking of the outcome. We are being delayed and sabotaged by ourselves, right? Because we are thinking, oh, there is no safety net. Oh, there is no buffer. What if I crashed? But you forgot that the challenge you face there will upgrade you. It is in line to set you up. Every problem is a program to get you where you want to go. Then why are you calling God every day to remove a challenge or problems along the way? That means you don't want to go. It is like an aircraft telling the gravity, not to, begging the gravity. The gravity is there to make it possible for you to grow. The gravity is there to make it possible for the aircraft to fly. Because once there is a gravity, the aerodynamics can now work. So why do we every day we keep on begging God? God, I don't want to face any problem. Meanwhile, God never promised you that. God promised you that there will be changes, there will be seasons, there will be challenges. But he says, beyond these challenges, you will soar. You will rise. You will be great. So, but you can't be great. You can't do these things without sitting down and say, this is what I do. When a friend comes to you, you are proud to say, this is my business. And if you understand the importance of business, then you've already built a community. But because we don't understand businesses, we don't have community. And then we end up talking about racism every day, begging people to accept us. Because they know that even if they accepted you, you're not going to do anything. You are not going to bring a change to the community. You're going to spread dependency. You're going to be liability. You're going to weigh them down. You're going to discourage them. Like you discourage yourselves. They know that if you come around them, you're going to be a wet blanket. Just as you discourage your own people. And everybody ends up living in a dirty environment. And nobody cares to clean it. Because there is no culture on which we have values and belief. Once we are pursuing money the way we are pursuing it, we cannot build our cities. We cannot change. Because business is idea. Human being is idea. Community is idea. These are not money. Because if you don't believe in your values and if you don't have beliefs and values, you can't build a city. You can't even allow the money in the coffer to stay there. You will just spend it or you take it and move it to Swiss bank. So the only way to come back to this is for us to start developing values. Values are the things that are important to us, our priorities. The things are very, very essential that we need. Without it, we can't operate. And then believing in those things helps you to create a business. And this business gives you a community. That's why Africans don't have community. They have a meeting every year round, but it comes to nothing because there is no community. The community is not built on trust. Because once you have value and you have belief, the next thing that comes is trust. And then once there's trust, you can now have community. But that's why we don't have community. Let's say now if we have community, one, we don't have electricity, so there's no community. Now we don't have hospital facilities that work, there's no community. We don't have road network, there's no community. We don't have good schools, there's no community. We can't even manage our airline. There's no community. That means it's just like teaching somebody something he doesn't understand. Once you understand what value is, and then you believe in it, the next thing is to build a community. That's community I'm talking about is your business. Because for somebody who doesn't understand, he will ask you, why will I have electricity in my own community, in my own house? Why will I clean my house? Tell me, for goodness sake, why will I eat and wash my plate? Tell me, why will I clean my environment? Tell me why in God's, for goodness sake, why will I construct my own road? And then tell me why I have to build hospital since you think you're wise. So somebody who hasn't got idea, who hasn't got value, who has got belief cannot build hospital. Nowhere. It cannot have a functioning electric network. Nowhere. Cannot build a road network. Cannot have a factory. It can't work. Because he will ask you, why do I want to do it? Why will I clean my own house? Why will I clean my own environment? Why will we have government? Let's scatter the government. Because there is no sense of community in our mind. Because we don't have values. You can say you have value, but what is the evidence? Is there anything you respect at all? No. If somebody puts a medicine in the hospital, it will be stolen. If somebody install a chair, it will be taken away. Because there is no value, there is no belief, and there is no trust. Because you don't believe, you don't have trust, you don't believe that the thing is going to stay next year. Because of that, you move it. Because there's no trust, if you're made a minister, you say, well, the best thing is to take this whole money and take it to England or Germany or America. Because there's no trust. Look at marriage, for instance. If you don't trust your partner, how are you people going to build something? You'll be building your own house, she'll be building her own. You'll be cheating, she'll be cheating. Because there's no trust. You don't believe that your husband can go to work and return safely without having to cheat on you. So everything about life is trust. So it means this trust does not exist in the community, in the mind of black people. That's what it's saying. But I don't believe it. Because myself, I'm black. And I'm African. So everything starts with belief, values. What are your values? What are your priorities? A man who has no value cannot hold a community, cannot build a house, cannot build a community, cannot build anything. House, I mean, is not building a house you stay in because you want to. House means a house that is clean, that is organized, that is functioning. So somebody who has no value, who has no belief, will ask you, why will we have electricity in the country? Nigerians are asking, why would there be electricity in Nigeria? Why will we clean our streets? Why will we build our cities? If you want to know people who don't have belief and trust, or who don't have belief and value, go to their cities. Go to how they operate. Everything is in a total, chaotic situation. So we have to begin to build up our value. We have to begin to have belief. We have to begin to have priorities. And until these things come up, we will not have community. Then until these things come up, we will not have, what I call businesses. Business and community are not, they are inseparable. When you say, oh, I'm going for our community business our meeting for my village meeting, I laugh because nothing comes out of it. Because there's no idea, there's no value, there's no belief, that brings you people together, that will give you the confidence that something will be done. Check it, after like 5 years, you will see nothing. So business is as important as your life. Business is about your community. Business is about your work. What did God say to people? You must work. The first instruction God gave to Adam or gave to us is work. That work means community. That work means value. That work means belief. That work means trust. So you can steal money and say you start a business. That's not business. It doesn't bring any change. Such business will not bring any change. And as we're seeing it, we've seen it in ourselves. It hasn't brought any change. Like I said, change is important because once you see somebody that has changed, you will know. For instance, if you see a woman that is pregnant, won't you know? Or to make it simpler, if you see a woman that is 8 months pregnant, won't you know? Assuming we don't have discerning spirit, won't you know? Most of us will say they won't know. So if you've changed, we don't need to argue about it. We see it's you operating, functioning. So many people, they come and say they've changed, but they're doing the same thing. Just like your wife says she's pregnant, 9 months or 8 months, she's still slim. There's nothing to stop it. And she has conceived. Is it not a lie? It's a lie. So business is all about having a value, having a belief. Do you believe in anything? Forget about you say you're worshiping God. You can't worship God without believing in God. You cannot step inside the church and come back and still remain the same. You will now begin to understand that you need to grow. You will now begin to understand that you will need to evolve. We have to change. This thing we call tradition is stupidity. Because the tradition is holding you to a particular location forever and ever. Amen. So this thing we call tradition because we don't want to change the status quo. You see, with this thing we call tradition is like when a seed didn't germinate. If a seed didn't germinate, that is what is called tradition. The tradition makes you don't evolve, makes you don't explore, makes you don't expand, makes you don't grow. You don't see things in a brighter, situation, perspective. You will see people, they are using hoe. Somebody who, for almost 100 years, they are using hoe to dig ground. For 100 years, a human being that started using hoe is still using hoe. That means the person is not evolving. That means the person is not developing. That means the person is not innovating. That means there is no creativity. You were born in 1904. Almost 100 years later, the person is still using hoe, digging ground. With all this, brain God has given to us. Then that's why you see somebody comes into a place, the place is dirty and the person is staying in it. Sleeping in a dirty place. Selling things in a slummy place, like a gutter where they pour poop. Somebody sleeping there and make him stay in there. I have never seen a creature or a creation that does not evolve. So why are we not evolving? Why are we maintaining the same status quo? Why are we not questioning things? Why are we not building businesses? Look at the Chinese, for instance. Almost 90% of Chinese, all of them have their businesses. Everybody has his own business. Even though they work, they have business. Even though they pray whatever they pray, they have business. So telling me that you went to church or you are religious cannot stop you from working. Work is more important than this religiosity we are following. Like, that more important than going to church. Because when you are working, your mind can develop, then you can worship God. Tell me, how can a seed that doesn't germinate favor God? How does a seed that doesn't germinate mean anything to God? You read in the Bible, Jesus Christ told you that you are light. You read in the Bible, he told you that you are mustard seed. You read in the Bible, he told you are salt. You read in the Bible, he told you different parables. You are yeast. So what are you talking about? So when you are not changing, you are not worshiping God. I'm sorry. When you are not evolving, it's just like a seed that didn't germinate. So begin today to review why you have to exist. From there, you begin to understand that you have to walk. Because while you are walking, you are praying. There's no need deceiving yourself and you say you are a pastor, you are this, that is your job. That is nonsense. It doesn't stop you from walking. It doesn't stop you from bringing change. God said, He has taught His word is in our heart, everybody. That no longer will somebody be teaching teaching another person. So in what you are doing, by walking, you are worshiping God. You are going to church. You are experiencing God in a practical way. God is a practical God. He wants us. If He's not a practical God, how come He built the world? How come we have the sun and the moon and the stars and the waters and the flowers and other things? It's not idealistic God. It's a practical God. So stop deceiving yourself and you are a pastor, you are this, you are this. It's completely nonsense. Find out the work you do. Through your own work, you worship God. They said faith without work is useless. So if you have faith, you don't work, it's useless. Because through your faith, through your work, you show your faith. Through your work, somebody can look at and say, oh, this is a son of God. The angels will see your product, will see your handwork and say, indeed, this is God. This is a child of God, because there is no other being that can do this except a child of God. But if there's no work, how will the angel understand that you are a child of God? We are supposed to do something that when the angels see it, they will go and tell God, I went to the earth, I saw somebody that looked like you. Because through work, you understand the importance of excellence. Otherwise, you think everything is like a child's play. Like we see in Nigeria and every part of Africa, we think everything is a child play. We don't build our road networks. We don't clean our places. We don't clean our environment. We don't wash things. We don't stay in line. We don't organize ourselves at the junction. So what kind of nonsense is this? This is a righteous anger. That is what I'm expressing. I'm not angry, but this is a righteous anger that can, fire somebody's imagination for him to change. Change is necessary. I'm winding up now. I'm summarizing. So, business is important. When you show me your community, I will see your business. When you show me your business, I will see your community. So these two things are inseparable. So begin today to think about having your own business, even though you're working, because that is the only way to express yourself. If you doubt it, if somebody who employs you withdraws that employment, what do you have to do? If, say, you go to work tomorrow, that's Monday, and the person say the work is finished, what do you do? Don't we repair our roof while the sun is shining? Begin today to have your own business, regardless of whatever you're doing. Because through that, you gain experience. There is a knowledge that is hidden that only people who get into business, who get into a practical thing, will experience. And that knowledge, without it, you will not understand what I'm talking here about community. I could talk for 100 years, you will not understand this. And then you will not understand that God has made you God. Because it is through the work your minds begin to expand so that you begin to understand that you have to keep your environment clean. It's no longer an option. You have to build your hospitals. You have to build your road network. These things no longer need to be told. So you are no longer need to be educated anymore. So business is the only way you can experience God. Because God is a God of growth. God is a God of, progress. You can't have a child 2 years, after 40 years or 50 years, the same person is still like a baby. You'll be feeding the person. Ask yourself, imagine, go back to 4 years back. Go back to 4 years. The way I'm speaking now wasn't the way I was speaking 4 years ago. You must have seen a progress. That is the way. So without progress, it looks as if God doesn't exist. So there has to be progress. No matter how small it is, there has to be. We need to evolve. We need to leave the status quo. We need to leave this tradition we're doing in Africa, and traditional nonsense that doesn't bring anything. Tradition that sticks to ignorance. Tradition that inspires ignorance and stupidity, and we hold on to it forever and ever and live in a dirty environment. So I have the following books. Read them. This is the big R of a successful business. So most of the thing I'm talking here, you can get it here. And this big R, you can get it at dr@fonte.com. So you get everything. Google it, you get the book, The Big R of a Successful Business. And then this is Kalango, the personified story. It will help you also in businesses and other things you want to read to develop your mind. Because without developing your mind, you cannot understand what I'm saying here. When I'm saying that business is community, you won't understand it. The reason it looks as if we're poor is that because we don't have community. And because we don't have community, we don't have business. Community is not like this gathering we have. Community is where people stay and they have ideas, they have values, they have belief, and there is trust. The reason why you don't buy from any African person is because you don't have trust. The reason why Africans don't buy from Africans is because they don't have trust on their fellow Africans. So begin today to change this equation, to change these dynamics. Start having value, start having belief, and start having trust. Thank you.